It's Spain's worst air disaster in 25 years.
It was a tremendous tragedy.
A crash that kills 154 people.
Nuestros pensamientos.
Our thoughts were with our colleagues and the passengers.
Y a los pasajeros.
Investigators face intense pressure to pinpoint the cause.
When you get to the accident site, you need to collect facts.
When you come up with a mechanical irregularity.
Did you see anything outside?
It's like, what next?
Right, got it.
Could a minor maintenance issue
So, we're done?
Yep, you're good to go.
have led to this deadly catastrophe? It's 2:14 p.m. at Madrid Barajas Airport. After being delayed for more than an hour, Spanair Flight 5022 is finally getting back underway. There are 166 passengers on board, many of them looking to escape the stifling heat of Madrid in August.
Everyone was full of anticipation. Everyone wanted to be on their way.
Anna Stefanides has come to Spain from Sweden. She is on her way to the Canary Islands to meet some friends.
Most of Europe has holidays, different summer holidays in August. I was going to Gran Canaria to meet my girlfriends. We were going to have 1 week's holiday. 4 ladies.
Today, Captain Antonio Luna is in command. A former Spanish Air Force pilot, he's been with Spanair for 9 years.
How's our time? About an hour and a quarter behind schedule.
First Officer Francisco Mulet joined the company just a year and a half ago. Almost all of his 1,300 flight hours are with Spanair.
Maybe we can make it up in the air. Maybe.
The flight began with a morning hop from Barcelona to Madrid. From Madrid, they'll fly 2 hours and 50 minutes south to Gran Canaria in the Canary Islands.
Spanair 5022, Joe Nexon 9 on runway 36 left. Okay, here we go.
Preparing for takeoff is an extremely busy time for the flight crew. They've got multiple checklists that they have to run.
Ignition, set. Spoilers, armed.
Make certain the aircraft is properly configured, the thrust is set right, the brakes, etc.
Air conditioning?
So there are a plethora of factors that are all running through their minds simultaneously.
And final items we have 8, 11 aligned, 11 stowed. Here's Spanair 5022. You are cleared for takeoff, runway 36 left. Cleared for takeoff, Spanair 5022. Okay, your aircraft.
First Officer Mulet will fly the plane from here.
My aircraft.
At 2:23, the MD-82 aircraft starts speeding down the runway. The captain watches their speed. They can't lift off until they reach 157 knots, takeoff speed.
It didn't feel right. I thought they were putting in all the power and force that they had, and now we will lift off. But something was just not right.
It's taking so long. Does that seem right to you?
And then I thought, how long is this runway? We have to lift off now.
V1, rotates.
An alarm warns the pilot something is going wrong.
Engine failure?
Flight 5022 isn't climbing out from the runway. The first officer increases power, but he's losing control of the plane.
When we finally lifted, everything went suddenly to the right, and then I just heard screams. and crashing.
Skrik och smäll.
The plane is less than 40 feet from the ground.
Men jag hann tänka,
I managed to think, this is my last trip. I've had a good life.
haft ett bra liv.
I thought, now I die.
Så tänkte jag, nu dör jag. En sak som jag gjorde, det var att jag tog
I put my arms over my head
och
and put my head between my legs.
la huvudet mellan knäna.
I protected myself as much as I could.
Kunde.
Just seconds after takeoff, Flight 5022 slams into a riverbank beside the runway. Airport fire crews are quickly on the scene. The plane with 172 people on board is now shattered wreckage, spread over nearly a kilometer. Anna Stefanidis has landed in the water, still strapped to her seat.
När jag vaknade upp så,
When I woke up, first there was this quiet. But then I realized I'm not dead. I looked around me.
jag tittade ju runt omkring.
Where am I? What is this?
Det här.
Airport workers have raced to the crash site to try to help, but they can't get to Anna.
De här räddnings...
The emergency personnel were calling to me. Come on. Come on. Hurry, now.
Kom igen. Nu är det dags.
She's in the middle of the stream, tangled in debris and sinking fast.
Men
I have no idea how I managed to get free.
Somehow, Anna makes it to the water's edge, where rescuers help her to safety. She's in shock and suffering from a serious leg injury, but at least she's alive.
det var kaos. Det var något.
It was chaos. It was so horrible.
Men jag kom upp.
But I got out.
In spite of the massive rescue effort, only 18 people survive. 147 passengers are dead, along with both pilots.
It was a tremendous tragedy. All the country was affected by that.
This is Spain's worst aviation disaster in 25 years.
Nuestros pensamientos fueron directamente
Our thoughts were with our colleagues and the passengers.
a los pasajeros.
It was a Spanish company, so many of our colleagues were flying that type of plane.
Donde nosotros teníamos muchos
It was a very difficult time.
en esos aviones. Fueron unos momentos muy duros.
Spain quickly recruits an international team of experts to investigate the crash. They have a massive puzzle to piece together. How could a sophisticated jet, manned by an experienced crew,
Rotate.
crash on takeoff on a sunny afternoon?
Okay, people. It looks like we have our work cut out for us.
Juan Carlos Lozano is an investigator with the Spanish Pilots Union.
The accident site at the beginning is considered like a crime scene. It's very important to find out how the pieces are located because that will give you a lot of information.
It's demanding work, searching acres of rough terrain for shattered pieces of scorched debris, all under the blazing Madrid sun.
It was difficult, the heat, because it was a very hot summer. So the heat was probably one of the worst things.
Understanding what happened to Flight 5022 is going to be one of the most difficult tasks these air crash investigators have ever faced. Investigators into the crash of Spanair Flight 5022 immediately focus their efforts on recovering the plane's two black boxes, or flight recorders.
For an investigator, the FDR is one of the most vital records that we can get because everything that is working or it is not working or it's causing an issue will be recorded there.
Once they download the data, it could provide vital clues about what went wrong.
Let's get this to the lab, ASAP, okay?
Meanwhile, the nation mourns. The Prime Minister visits the crash site. The king and queen and the mayor of Madrid gather to console the grieving families. The pressure to announce a cause is intense.
La prensa estuvo...
The press was putting a lot of pressure on the investigators to give answers, even before they had any idea what could have happened.
de qué era lo que podía haber pasado.
No tengo nada de ninguna información. Es que no tengo.
At the crash site, marks on the ground paint a vivid picture,
Here's our first impact.
revealing just how quickly Flight 5022 turned to disaster. The first impact marks are just 60 meters from the runway. The plane then passed over a road and slid another 550 meters before crashing on the far side of a river.
This airplane left a trail coming from the runway to the edge of the airport boundary. So it was quite clear for the investigation that the airplane had a big problem just on liftoff.
The timing immediately suggests a theory that might explain the crash.
Let's take a look at this engine. When an aircraft gets only 30 feet off the ground and falls uncontrollably back to the ground, you have to wonder, were the engines operating correctly?
Engine power is especially crucial during the first few moments of flight. If the plane doesn't have enough power, it won't achieve the speed it needs to overcome drag and get airborne. Investigators study the engines, searching for any sign of malfunction. Both are filled with debris, mud, and grass ingested during the crash.
If we find mud, soil, or grass throughout the engine, we can determine that the engine was fully operational at the time of the accident. In this case, we found traces all around the engine.
The finding means the engines were spinning at high speed when they hit the ground. It wasn't engine failure that doomed the plane.
Right. The engines were fine. But something stopped that plane from climbing.
Investigators need a new theory to explain why the MD-82 couldn't climb.
What was it? I want maintenance records. Weather reports. Pilot records. The works. Let's get to work, people.
For an accident investigator, it's very, very important not to establish any presumptions. You need to collect facts.
Okay, let's see what the numbers tell us.
Investigators know that for any takeoff, the plane's weight and balance must be carefully calculated.
The aircraft needs to be carefully balanced in order to get its better performance. So when you are taking off, you need to be sure that the aircraft has been properly balanced and the weight is correct.
They review the passenger manifest, cargo, and fuel load. They need to check the total weight, as well as where the loads were carried, to see if the plane's center of gravity shifted dangerously forward or back. But it's soon clear this isn't the smoking gun they're looking for.
Well, there's nothing wrong with their takeoff weight.
Controllers in the tower provide a more promising lead. They tell investigators that the Spanair crew called off an earlier takeoff.
They had some kind of maintenance issue right before takeoff.
The plane was at the threshold of the runway when the pilots noticed a temperature gauge was giving them faulty readings.
Madrid Spanair 5022, we have a slight problem.
We have to exit the runway. 5022, taxi to Apron Tango 2, Stand Romeo 11.
Controllers cleared the MD-82 to return to the terminal.
You've spent the last 45 minutes totally focused on getting that aircraft to the runway, and when you come up with a mechanical irregularity, it's like, what next? It's a showstopper.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing a minor technical problem. We're just going to head back to the terminal to see if we can sort this out.
Normally the passengers are more comfortable after a clear and direct explanation on what's going on.
I guess we're not going anywhere just yet.
Men jag tänkte, nej, vad ska jag oroa mig?
I thought, why should I worry? I've bought my ticket. I've paid for my ticket. I want to get there, and I will. So they will have to do their job and fix this.
Göra sitt jobb och fixa det här.
Could the last-minute repair be the key to explaining the crash of Flight 5022? Investigators need to know. Spanair Flight 5022 was sent to a remote maintenance area in a far corner of the terminal. It took 9 minutes just to taxi there.
And we're back. Shutting down the engines.
By the time they reach the maintenance stand, the plane is already 42 minutes behind schedule. That delay could be an important lead.
On-time performance is taken very, very seriously in the industry. And now that they're substantially behind schedule, the pressure is immense.
With the engine shut down, the plane's air conditioning doesn't work. Sitting on the scorching tarmac, temperatures in the plane begin to soar.
Det var hett. Det var så otroligt hett.
It was incredibly hot in the plane.
Aldrig upplevt sån hett.
I've never experienced that kind of heat before.
That day, the situation was very complex. It was not only about punctuality, it was a hot day. And the MD-80 has not a very powerful air conditioning system on ground. So it was a mix between stress because of the punctuality and stress because the passengers were suffering a lot with the hot temperature.
Maintenance workers give investigators more details about the delay. They were trying to fix a problem with one of the plane's sensors.
Oh yeah, I took a look, but it wasn't serious.
The sensor, called a ram air temperature probe, juts out from the nose of the plane. It measures the outside air temperature and feeds the information to the engines during flight.
Did you see anything outside?
No, it looks fine. It's not clogged.
The sensor is sending faulty readings to the engines.
No, that didn't work either.
Without it, the automation that adjusts engine power won't work properly.
Look at that. It says 104 degrees now.
The attempted repair eats up more valuable time.
I gotta write all this up. Not to mention the delay, over an hour late at least.
The entire economics of the present air transport industry is built on efficiency. An airplane in the air makes money, an airplane sitting on the ground doesn't. So if you've got an aircraft that isn't where it needs to be, this has thrown a severe complication into the efficiency in the operations of the airline.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. We hope to be on the move again very soon.
Maintenance workers explained that they couldn't repair the faulty sensor.
Right, got it.
Instead, they disabled it by cutting the electrical power to the sensor.
They simply try to avoid the symptom, which is the high temperature in the ram air temperature probe by pulling the circuit breaker.
The quick fix eliminated the faulty readings.
So, we're done?
Yeah, pop the breakers, so you're good to go.
Okay, thanks.
The maintenance workers have no idea what went wrong on takeoff. Investigators wonder if the disabled temperature probe is somehow linked to the crash.
I don't see how this could cause a problem.
But they quickly confirm the probe is not an essential piece of equipment. The